Welcome to our new topic on explorers. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to be studying the polar explorer Robert Falcon Scott and reading a key text linked to adventurers. We're going to be watching video clips and reading texts all about this amazing explorer and a range of other explorers too. And eventually we will be putting together a double-page spread all about Robert Falcon Scott, including a biography and a kit list of all the equipment that he needed for his expedition. Let's look at the overview for the week. Hi Year 5 and 6, here's the overview for week 8. We're starting today with a reading task which will be a comprehension on our key text, Great Adventurers by Alistair Humphreys. It's just a double-page spread from the book. On Tuesday we're going to do a listening task where you'll need to make notes on some videos about Robert Falcon Scott. On Wednesday, we're going to look at the features of a biography and read some example texts. On Thursday, we're going to learn how to organise paragraphs and use topic sentences. And on Friday, we're going to begin to draft a biography using the provided facts on Robert Falcon Scott. So here's our key text for the next few weeks. It's called Great Adventurers by Alistair Humphreys, and it says the incredible expeditions of 20 explorers. You might want to pause the video now and see if you can think of any famous explorers you already know about. You could list these in your exercise book, or if you're in class, you can tell your teacher. So here's the text we're going to be using for our reading comprehension today. You'll need to read the text. In the next part of the video, I've split it up so it's easier to read, but we've also sent a copy on parent mail. Then you'll need to choose from mild, spicy or hot and answer the questions in your exercise books. Don't forget to look at the marks inside the brackets to tell you what you're expected to write in your answer. Your task for today is to watch the next section of the video about Robert Falcon Scott, the famous polar explorer. Then make notes about the following areas in your exercise book. You may also want to carry out your own additional research. I would suggest that you watch the videos, there's 2 of them, watch the videos first, they last about 8 minutes, and then go back to the slide with the suggested headings and make notes in your book. I would aim for at least 4 facts for each bullet point. We are going to read more information about Robert Falcon Scott later in the week, so only do your additional research if you really want to.
an explorer who went to the South Pole.
OK, sounds good. Hololab, can we meet an explorer who went to the South Pole?
Searching, found. An explorer who went to the South Pole, Robert Falcon Scott.
Hi, Mr. Scott. I'm Fatima.
And I'm Ollie.
How do you do, Fatima? How do you do, Ollie? I'm Robert Falcon Scott. I set out in 1911 to be the first person to reach the South Pole. I knew that Ernest Shackleton and Roald Amundsen, a Norwegian explorer, also wanted to get there first. The race was on.
That sounds exciting.
And dangerous.
What happened?
We left Cardiff on a ship called the Terra Nova in June 1910 with everything I needed for the expedition. We had problems right away. It was so incredibly cold. The equipment we brought with us wouldn't work, and the ponies couldn't cope either.
What did you do?
We struggled on, the dogs pulling our sledges through awful weather and across difficult terrain. By the middle of winter, it was too cold even for the dogs, so they turned back, leaving only 5 of us, myself, Wilson, Oates, Bowers, and Evans, to make the final push to the South Pole.
Wow, so there were only 5 of you alone on all that ice?
And you had no way to call anyone, no radio, nothing?
That's right. We had no way to communicate at all, and had no choice but to continue on the trek south. Finally, on the 17th of January 1912, we arrived at the South Pole.
So you were the first to get there?
Well, no. We saw the Norwegian flag flying and realized that Amundsen had beaten us. He had already arrived there on the 14th of December.
Oh no!
Indeed. Now we faced the 800-mile journey back, knowing that we hadn't been the first to get to the pole.
That must have been terrible for you.
Quite. It got even worse. The temperature suddenly dropped to minus 40 degrees centigrade. That's 45 degrees colder than the average winter temperature in the UK. Despite our insulating clothes made of canvas, wool, and reindeer fur, the weather had become so extreme that it was hard to move. This slow progress also meant we didn't have enough food.
What happened?
We lost Evans in mid-February. By March, Oates was very badly frostbitten and could not move very fast. Fearful he was holding us up, he bravely sacrificed himself in the hope we would survive. I'm just going outside. I may be some time. Our expedition ended on the 29th of March 1912. We were just 20 kilometers from a supply depot. I left a letter for my wife.
What did you say to her?
I told my wife that I loved her and had no regrets about my journey. How it is better to have tried and failed than never have tried at all. And although we didn't make it back, we had the spirit to try. We took risks. Luck didn't come our way, but we were determined to do our best. That's the most important thing. Go out there and follow your dreams. I wish you all the very best of luck with whatever you choose to do in life.
Wow, what an amazing person.
I want to be a brave explorer.
This is a short film about a man known as Captain Scott.
I'm Captain Scott, Robert Falcon Scott. I'm also known as Scott of the Antarctic.
The Antarctic is a very cold place. Captain Scott and his team was tasked with reaching the South Pole, an area inside the Antarctic, the very bottom of the world. In fact, it's so cold that the polar region can drop to temperatures such as minus 90 degrees Celsius.
It's a bit cold. I should have something warmer, shouldn't I?
Oh yes, of course. Obviously Scott and his team would not have been wearing suits and ties out there. Clothing worn would somewhat resemble this.
Thanks. But that's stepping too far ahead. Some people don't even know who I am.
Yeah, you're right. Let's start at the very beginning.
don't even know who I'm supposed to be painting.
In the year 1868, Robert was born. He was the eldest of 5 children. Eventually, Robert got married and had 1 son. Scott's wife was actually a sculptor and was a friend of Pablo Picasso. Always a remarkable person, Scott was only 13 years of age when he joined the Navy. Aged 33, Captain Scott was appointed leader of the British Antarctic expedition. To the Antarctic! Yahoo! On this journey, he had to navigate through, as well as around, many hazardous icebergs and dangerous threats, putting both his life at risk, as well as his challenge. The Terra Nova expedition started in 1910 and came to an abrupt end in 1913. The actual funding of the expedition was financed by public contributions augmented by government grants. As they arrived in Australia, a stop-off point before they headed to their final goal, news was brought to them they were now in a race which would push their own physical abilities past the limits. A Norwegian explorer, Roald Amundsen, had the same ambition. The race was officially on. Scott's team had made it to the South Pole, but they were beaten by the Norwegian. Unfortunately, on the way back from the South Pole, Scott and his team died from starvation.
We are showing that Englishmen can still die with a bold spirit, fighting it out to the very
So today's lesson, we're going to review the features of a biography. So our objective is to know the features of a biographical text. Mild, you will need to list the structural features and some language features of a biography. Spicy, you will be able to list most of the features of a biography, and Hot, you will understand the purpose of the main features. So, what is a biography? A biography, instead of a non-chronological report, a biography is like a chronological report about a person's life. It is written about someone who's usually famous, important, or who has affected the world in some way. So here is an example biography for us to look at. This is about Amelia Earhart, who was a famous aviator who sadly disappeared while she was exploring in her plane. So I like how this biography starts with a photograph of the person the biography is about and a caption. It also starts with a key fact file at the beginning, which explains her occupation or her job, when she was born and when she died. It also explains what she was best known for. If you've been on Purple Mash, you might have noticed that the Charles Darwin fact file starts with similar bullet points. It really just sets the scene and explains a little bit more about the person you're writing about. Moving down, we then look at the main section of the biography. This author has chosen to start with a question. Instead of an ordinary subheading, like early life, they've chosen to write, where did Amelia Earhart grow up? And then this section, which moves on to the next page as well, talks about her initial starting point to her life, her childhood, and then her later years. So in the next section of the biography, we continue with her childhood. And then the next subheading says before flying. This paragraph is about her graduating from high school and then her first jobs. The next subheading talks about a really key moment in her life, and it says first time flying. You'll notice how in this case we've got a very specific date on December 28th, 1920, and that just is really because it was a crucial date in her life, the first time that she took a plane flight. In this section, the writer talks about how Amelia was the first woman to cross the Atlantic in a plane. And then the final section here talks about how she tried to cross the Atlantic on her own. So here is another biography for us to look at. I'm just showing you the structure here, starting with an introduction explaining who the person is. or who the biography is about. And then paragraph 1 tends to be the early life, childhood, where the person was born, where they went to school, and then moving through their life chronologically. So paragraph 2 talks about where Tim Peake spent some days underwater at the Aquarius lab. So there are some useful phrases here, generally fronted adverbials, that signpost the date and show that the text is in chronological order. I'm just highlighting those in yellow. So we have in 1972, after graduating, in 2006, in 2012, and then in December 2015. So these are all fronted adverbials of time, and they're just signposting the chronological order of this text. We've also got some example of parentheses here, dashes, and brackets. The brackets are explaining that International Space Station can be written and abbreviated as ISS. And then the dashes are just adding some information about his degree course. We've also got some interesting sentence starters such as uniquely. That's an example of an adverb, as is interestingly. It's meant to be blue, just looks a bit green there because I've got the yellow highlighting on the introduction. So uniquely and interestingly are some sentence starters, they are adverbs. And finally, we've got an example here of a relative clause. And actually the information between the dashes is also a relative clause. It's just the relative pronoun is invisible. So Tim Peake, whose full name is Timothy Nigel Peake. So we're actually using parentheses there with commas, but it's just adding extra information and extra detail to that sentence. So moving on to the next section of the biography, we've got paragraph 4, which really talks about Peake's time on the ISS. And then paragraph 5 really moves on later in his life after working on the ISS and what he's going on to do now. So I'm going to highlight some of the key features again in this text. So we've got some fronted adverbials again, fronted adverbials of time. The one that says in 2013 that I just highlighted, that actually wouldn't be a fronted adverbial, but it is still a time signpost phrase. We have got a nice sentence starter here, however. Nice adverb, famously. And we've got another however at the end. A relative clause here, which floats in the air, explaining a little bit more about the dust board. This part at the end that I'm highlighting pink, this is a very common way to end a biography. It's a sentence that looks forward to the future. So it says, people all around the world are wondering what he will achieve next. There's one more feature that I'm going to highlight, which is use of conjunctions. So we've got the subordinating conjunction after in paragraph 1. And we've got the subordinating conjunction when, which is in the paragraph 4, when water was discovered in his partner's helmet. There are also some coordinating conjunctions such as but and, but the subordinating conjunctions really take your writing to that next level. So what are the structural features of a biography? The title, an introduction or an opening statement explaining who the person is. Events need to be in chronological, organised paragraphs. The conclusion explains the impact upon the world or looks to the future. And there are pictures or captions to make the writing more exciting. The language features of a biography. A biography is written in the past tense. You might use direct or indirect quotes from sources. You would definitely use formal language unless you're quoting somebody. You would write in the third person, so he or she. You would use fronted adverbials and prepositions of time to link ideas, and there would be a lot of dates and facts. So your task for today is to copy the skills list into your book as a mind map. You can see the example that I've started in the next part of the video. If you have any extra time once you've copied down the skills list, you could read some more biographies on this website. So here is the website called Ducksters, and I'm just scrolling down to show you how many different biographies there are. So you really will be able to get a good sense of what a biography is by reading a few of these if you've got time. And here's my example. I've just started it here. You could use one colour or different colours. I'm using the skills list, which I'll put in the next slide, to just make a mind map of skills to use in a biography. Doing this in your exercise books, please. So Thursday's task is about organising paragraphs. And the LO says to organise paragraphs into groups of related facts and use topic sentences for cohesion. So cohesion is where your writing flows or it sticks. So it's all about making sure that your writing flows throughout the text and that it is put into clear sections. So cohesion can be described as a river flowing or as something sticking things together, like glue. So mild, you'll be organising sentences into clear groups. Spicy, you'll do that as well, but you will also be able to write a topic sentence to introduce each paragraph. And hot, it would be brilliant if you could try to use a variety of different topic sentence structures to introduce your paragraph. So try to make your topic sentences different. Our overview for today, we're going to look at a topic sentence. Then we're going to organise some sentences or do some colour coding. And finally, we'll write our own topic sentences. So, a topic sentence introduces a paragraph. They're used to show the reader what the paragraph is going to be about. This is really important so that our text has cohesion, which means the writing is organised well and it flows. Here are some examples of topic sentences. Every topic sentence will have a topic and a controlling idea. The controlling idea shows the direction that the paragraph will take. So here are some examples. The first topic sentence. There are many reasons why pollution in ABC town is the worst in the world. So the topic is pollution in ABC town is the worst in the world, and the controlling idea is many reasons. So we know the paragraph is going to be about pollution in ABC town, and we know that the paragraph is going to explain the many reasons why pollution is the worst in the world in ABC town. The next topic sentence says to be an effective CEO requires certain characteristics. So here the topic is to be an effective CEO. So the paragraph is going to be about what makes an effective CEO. And the controlling idea is certain characteristics. So the paragraph is going to explain the characteristics that make an effective CEO. The final example says, fortune hunters encounter many difficulties when exploring a shipwreck. So the topic here that the paragraph is going to be about is exploring a shipwreck. And a controlling idea, so the paragraph The direction that the paragraph is going to go is many difficulties. So the topic is about, the paragraph will be about exploring a shipwreck, and the paragraph will explain the difficulties, the many difficulties that the fortune hunters would encounter. The first task for today is to read the mixed up facts about Robert Falcon Scott. These are in the next part of the video, and I've also sent them as a worksheet on Parrot Mail. I'd like you to organise the mixed up facts into clear notes in your books using headings to show which section is which. If you have a printer, you could even colour code the facts on the sheet. So see my examples in the next part of the video. These are my suggested headings, and I've colour coded them for you. Early life and childhood is yellow. Early Navy career is pink. The first expedition is green. Returning from the expedition, awards and fame is blue. The Terra Nova expedition is red, and extra is grey. There's no date for these facts. So I'm just going to show you how I would organise this if I was working in my book. So I'd start by choosing a heading. I'm going to start with the yellow heading, early life. And I would get the facts to one side or have them on the screen. And in my book, I would write the heading early life. Could always colour it yellow if you want to. And then I would look through the 3 slides of the facts and I would find anything that fits into early life. The heading shows you that this is up until 1881. So I'm just going to search through. So on this slide, I've seen 1875 until 1881. That's the dates that Scott went to school at Stubbington House. So instead of copying the whole fact, I'm just summarising it. That's one of our reading skills. So I'm just saying 1875 to 1881. I'm writing this in my book. School equals Stubbington House, and I can put Navy prep. So you don't need to copy the entire fact. I'm just searching through for any facts that fit into early life, which is up until 1881. So once I've finished the yellow section, I would then move on to another section. I'm just going to show you awards and fame, which is blue. So I'm searching through this slide and then the other 2 slides to find anything that goes between 1904 and 1909, September 1904 and 1909. So I've got 1907. In 1907, Scott met Kathleen Bruce, who ultimately was going to become his wife. And I don't think there's anything else for blue in this one. I'm looking from 1904 to 1909, so I have to look on one of the other slides. And this is how I would do it if I could have the facts printed off in front of me, but it's fine if you can't, as I've just explained. I would go through the worksheet and I would colour code each fact, and then I could either cut them out and stick them all together in sections in my book, or I could do, as I've just explained in the previous task, I could make brief notes under each section in my book. So it's up to you, but you want to aim to have clear, organised facts in the 5 or 6 sections that I've given you. Ooh, I've gone a little bit overboard with my pink highlighting there. So I've highlighted the extra, which is grey. The next one is red because it's after 1912, so that's Terra Nova expedition. These 2 are pink. 1907, that's blue, awards and fame. 1887 is early Navy career, I think, so that will be pink again. And then early life, that will be yellow because it's about his school, so 1875 until 1881, I need to highlight that in yellow. So here's the first of the 3 fact pages. You just need to make notes in your book using these headings. And task 2, but only for spicy and hot, mild you can give it a go but you may need some support, is for you to come up with a topic sentence for each of your paragraphs. This will become the first sentence of each paragraph when we start writing tomorrow. I would just write this underneath your organised notes in your book. So topic sentence for paragraph 1, early life. So it could be something like Scott was born in, and then explain the fact. So it doesn't need to be anything super fancy, just a basic sentence explaining what each paragraph is going to be about. If you run out of time today, you can just follow this on to tomorrow's task, because on Friday, which is tomorrow, we will be actually beginning to draft our paragraphs. Friday's task is to begin to draft your biography on Robert Falcon Scott. So the LO is about sentence starters. I can use a range of sentence starters to make my writing interesting. Today's task is to start writing your biography about Robert Falcon Scott. This will be a draft, so does not need to be written up in best yet. The focus for today will be using a range of sentence starters, but I'll put a helpful list in the next part of the video. And then after the sentence starters, you will see my example introduction and an example paragraph. You can use these to help you, that's absolutely fine. Here are the example sentence starters. You can come back to this at any time. I will link them after my example paragraph, so you can just pause them there. Here's my example introduction. Robert Falcon Scott, or Scott of the Antarctic, is one of history's most well-known explorers. Famous for leading the second expedition to Antarctica's South Pole, his dedication and curious nature made him a brilliant voyager. But where did it all start? And here is my example paragraph 1. I've highlighted my topic sentence in orange. Born in Britain, Devonport, on 6th of June 1868, Scott was the third of 6 children born to John and Hannah Scott. Many of Scott's relatives were in the Navy or the military, so he went to school at Stubbington House in Hampshire to prepare for Navy training. At the age of 13, he passed his exams and joined the British Navy as a cadet. Immediately, he began to impress people with his leadership and sailing skills. Throughout the 1880s and 1890s, he worked on many Navy ships. He was always known as being very ambitious and hard-working.